The opening track there from Vision 45's Humid album, and it's called Easter. Tim and Noel are still with me at the moment. Noel, how long did Humid actually take to all put together? Don't ask that question.
10 years. No, about 18 months, really, that was actually the first track written. It was written Easter 2 years ago. And admittedly went through a few changes over at the time. But, yeah, it was actually before Texture, which was the debut album, it had come out. I'd start writing tracks for the next album, or you just keep on writing the whole time, and ends up on this album.
Yeah, I mean, how many sort of mutations do the songs and does the whole process go through?
Some of them went through about
a lot.
Funkify itself actually had somewhere around 15 different mixes, and that actually came down to about 5. But that was a fairly extreme case. The next single, which is going to be Purple Lamp, has actually got 6 at the moment.
Wow.
So it's
okay.
Yeah. That all sort of happened in a couple of weeks even, so...
It's kind of like, it seems to me like it's a big jigsaw puzzle, but all the pieces can sort of interchange and fit into a whole bunch of different combinations.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a matter of, like, with that album, there was actually a completed version not long after, halfway through last year, and then I didn't really like it, so it was a matter of redoing some things, scrapped a few tracks, and wrote some new tracks, and demolished a few of the others, just completely reconstructed them.
Okay.
And I'm much happier with what came out in the end.
Well, the track that we're about to play as well, Purple Lamp, as well as Funkify Yourself, which we heard before, feature the vocals of Lolly.
That's right.
She's not a permanent member, though, of Vision 45.
No, she does some cabaret performances, performing at dance parties, etc., in Brisbane. So just met through the club circuit and wrote togeture. And
would you like to get a single sort of focus singer, be
no, not
male
really,
or female?
because it's basically musically the band is about a more flexible sort of approach. It's whoever's voice suits the theme of the track and the sound of the track as well. So it's definitely, I don't know, it's more of a producer's angle, but it's having the perfect voice for the track
and having it totally flexible for your liking.
That's right.
We'd probably prefer to have a regular dancer over a regular singer.
Yeah, definitely.
A regular dancer?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this an ad?
Could be.
Calling all dancers. What do they need, Tim? To fit the
commitment.
style? Commitment,
definitely.
A lot of money and commitment, maybe.
No, just the commitment.
No, commitment.
That's probably the most fundamental thing, I think.
Commitment, patience and understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
But obsessions with technology would go a long way too, and, working with interactive interfaces, which is sort of what I'm really interested in.
Okay.
And unencumbered interfaces, actually... this whole thing, this has been a fascination of mine for years, because I started working out in sound, in the mid-70s, analog synthesis and all of that, and I always hated, keyboards, and then when computers came along, it was like, keyboards, mice, not comfortable with any of this. Not that, I don't particularly like data gloves. I don't think that's a good notion either for, a human interface. That's what I like about the Mandala system, even though it's sort of quite primitive, the interactive system I use on stage, where, you can just move around. And that controls things. It needs to be a whole lot smarter. And there's a guy in the States who's sort of working on this, Myron Kruger. But, we've seen his system over here in Australia, and that's getting more like it, where it actually understands gestures and that sort of stuff rather than just collision detection. Movement is essentially what my system's involved with.
And you were saying that that's outdated, that system you're using?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's sort of, following the lineage of the ideas, it was actually developed. The ideas for that system were developed by this guy, Myron Kruger, back in the 70s, in fact.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
so that's that
sort
old.
Of in an academic
the
framework.
ideas.
No, the ideas were there.
Yeah, the
right.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And primitive, early, towers of power monster computer technology, of that era.
So you're waiting for the ideal technology to come along now for you?
No, not waiting. We're constantly developing all sorts of technologies ourselves, both hardware and software, probably more No, both actually. We're constantly sort of applying ourselves to all of that as well.
Okay.
And,
but of course,
increasingly sophisticated ways.
Budget helps.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. We've got to earn a living as well, and the band, unfortunately, at this stage, doesn't keep us in computers.
Sure.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
There's actually a dedication to Myron on the album in part of Lighting the Fire, the last track. There's a track or a section called Kruger's Critter, which is actually after his first interactive system from the 70s. was a little critter that he has actually continually developed, and now it's got a complete personality of itself.
Oh, wow.
So always sentient, really.
Okay. Yeah. So what sort of show can people expect at the Metro Melbourne next Wednesday night?
It'll be live and direct.
And you're looking for a
best way to describe it.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Anyway.
No, well, whenever Vision 4.5 works, we always, have some sort of visual presentation. I mean, that's one of the things of what we do, So there's always the live camera and the live vision and all of that happening, as well as all the live music. So, we never ever work without that.
Okay, well, let's hope there's a dancer in the crowd that actually appeals to you and can maybe rope them into the future of Vision 4.5. It's all on at the Metro next Wednesday night, and I do give Australian Music Show listeners permission to take the night off in Melbourne and go along to the Metro to see... Just this once. Vision 4.5, as well as Itchy and Scratchy, Severed Heads, and FSOM. So a mega bill, plus there's also probably a whole bunch of DJs lined up to perform on the night as well.
Yeah, it should be a good night.
Okay, Tim, Noel, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
This will be the single soon, I hope, anyway. It should be released real soon.
One day.
Okay, Purple Lamp from Vision 4.5.